here we can keep working. I put a little demonstration over on the side table. And what it is a soil beta test. And I'm going to talk a little bit about them. But I'd like you to come and have a look. It's a really nice tool for farmers to use right now. It allows you to really measure soil respiration. And so I think it's an excellent tool for farmers to have a go at. And it's just one of those things. I thought we were going to be in a small room, so something that everybody can look at. So I'll just leave it over there so you can actually have a look at them. What they are is it's a gel that's in a tab, and it absorbs carbon dioxide out of the soil and it changes color. And you can see the color chart there, and it's perfect. That color chart will just let you know how much nitrogen mineralization you have in your soil, which gives you a really good idea of, whether your crop rotations are working, whether you need some more manure. And the other thing that's great about it is that we know that 62% of that nitrogen mineralization is actually phosphorus mineralization. So you can also calculate how much phosphorus is being made available to your plants. And the really good news about that is that, it's an $8 test. So, it's the kind of thing that we can all afford instead of going for the really heavy-duty one. So I think this is something that all of you want to have a go at. And the other thing I have up there, too, are Worm Watch posters. For those of you who remember me from when I worked for Ag Canada in Lethbridge, Alberta, I was also seconded to Environment Canada for a while to develop a public monitoring program for earthworms. And so I've got some posters up there that you can all take home as well. Okay. So maybe, I used to work, for 16 years until 2006, I worked for the Canadian government as the rhizosphere ecologist at the Lethbridge Research Center. And then I moved with my husband onto his family ranch in Montana. And now our boys are the 6th generation on that ranch. So I live in the beautiful Bitterroot Valley, and which is a little bit more like the Okanagan, actually. We grow apples and things like that, so I'm soft now. I just can't take the cold anymore. This is my new company, Rhizoterra, and Rhizoterra is really about helping farmers make informed decisions, and informed decisions based on science. Not on a bunch of pictures that say, oh, look at these roots, look at this, and, you should buy this because, well, it just does all these magical things. This is about saying, is this real? And so that's what we do. We help farmers make real decisions based on science. Okay, can we have the next slide, please? All of you have seen this before. The most important thing that you need to know about this is that soil quality is what it's really about, soil health and soil quality, and that biology drives all that. Now, in the title, it did say we're going to talk about how we do things, so let's go to the next one. If we think that soil is the foundation of agriculture, then well darn it, we shouldn't treat it like dirt. And you have to remember that soil is a habitat. So here's the other deal. That's why I'm going to talk to you about no-till, because soil is a habitat. There are lots of things that live there. So what are we doing? Letting it wash away, letting it blow away? This is not a good thing. We're actually losing our potential for having a live soil. We're destroying the habitat, and that's not what we're here to do. We want those bugs. We want the earthworms. We want things like that. That's a winter canola stand in Lethbridge. Go ahead. That's what a plow looks like. Look at that. It looks just like a mower plow. If you could look in your soil and you were in there when that thing starts rumbling through, that's what it would look like. All these animals that have set up homes, had their tunnels, had their little habitats all set up, and all of a sudden, the rumbling starts, and they're trying to get away. The soil structure But tillage actually works. I mean, in the 1790s, Jethro Tull wrote a book called Animal Husbandry. God darn it, it does work. Rip up those native prairies and the Pennine Prairie in England, and man, we can just have so much productivity. The only thing that we forgot was that that productivity, the reason that that tillage worked is because those soils with all those grasslands had been there for thousands of years. Yes, they tied up a lot of nutrients and we released them all at once. You know, Ag Canada wrote these wonderful old papers, and I managed to get a whole bunch of them. And one of them was written in 1944, and it was from work from 1901. And it said that as soon as they tilled the prairie, they estimated they lost 33% of the organic matter. 33%. You know what the good news was? Is that after 10 years, we were only losing 2% a year. Okay, so with that, let's move on. We want these guys, and I know I'm sort of, infamous for all these great images, so we're just going to keep having it. I can't help myself. But we want to have all these animals in the soil. If we want animals in the soil, we have to reduce the amount of tillage. And that's a really hard thing, because, well, how do we control weeds? You know, I mean, you guys aren't going to go around and spray a bunch of glyphosate, and you're not going to spray NCP and all A and all those other things. We know that. And in fact, the truth is that most of the farmers I work with, they don't want to spray it either. They're looking for alternatives. And that's what I do. I work with people who want to look for alternatives. So let's go on. Organic matter is what it's all about, folks. It's all about feeding your soil. Your soil needs to have a healthy diet as well. Think about livestock. You're feeding the below-ground livestock. That's what you're doing. All these things that live below ground, you're feeding. And they need to have a balanced diet. So in order for them to have a balanced diet, we need to feed them lots of different things. And that means that instead of just growing monoculture all the time, we need to grow some polyculture, cover crops. And I'm speaking to the choir here. I mean, organic farmers really pioneered the use of cover crops. Now we're going to take it to the next level. So we're going to look at organic matter. Go ahead. This is what it should look like. The ground should be covered. We should have great aggregates showing through because those earthworms are just motoring. And we're going to create soil structure. Now, there's a reason that we need to create soil structure. Because one of the key things to cycling nutrients are these little below-ground guys called protozoa and nematodes, and they need soil structure. They need to have a continuous soil-pore network because they have no burrowing capacity. No burrowing capacity, so they zoom around on water films through the soil, and they eat up all the bacteria and the fungi. And that's really important because we need them to eat them up. We need to turn the nutrients over because plants can't compete against soil microbiology. I see soils like that. I'm working with a farm in Idaho and near Genesee, and he goes, I can't understand it. I just why do I have to keep fertilizing? I've got all this stuff. Well, when we do the phospholipid fatty acids, which is a measure of soil microbiology, and he's got almost 1 milligram of microbiology for every gram of soil. He's counting it all up, and he's no predators because his soil structure isn't good enough. And so the microbiology just goes crazy, and he's building up all this microbiology, and he's not eating it up and cycling it. So predator-prey relationships are something we're going to talk a little bit more about. And that's part of your soil food web. And yes, carbon does drive that soil food web. Absolutely it does. Predator-prey relationships cycle the N, the P, the S, and all those other good things. Next one. Okay, call it coffee and then food, right? So you're memorizing this because we're going to go on. Okay, the only thing you need to know about this is that when we do a lot of tillage, we sever the connections in the food web. So if you think about it, it's like taking your fingers and ripping through a spider web. You cut the connections. Everything is connected. The mycorrhizae connect all the plants. The mycorrhizae go into all that residue that's sitting on the top and suck the nutrients out and feed the plant. That's how it works. So we need to keep those on there. So we need to figure out how to do this. Yeah. We need to maintain the balanced diet, that's that 20 to 30 to 1. And actually, once we get our soils going, we're finding we need to keep the carbon a little higher. And so now we're recommending somewhere between 40 and 50 to 1 once we get things going. Because otherwise we find that the residues disappear way too fast. And we need to keep the soil covered at all times. And if you just remember, keep the soil covered, we'll figure this out. Okay. So this is the kind of thing we want to look at. This is a farmer in South Africa that converted to doing, he converted his farm into no-tillage. He was a professor at the University of the Free State. We've been going at it for 3 years, and we flipped this over, and then, oh my gosh, look at that. And he hadn't really seen many earthworms. You've got cocoons in there, that's what look like little popcorn seeds. Those are earthworm eggs. And those orange bands that are on those earthworms mean that they're really sexy and we disturb them. So maybe they aren't going to have quite as many cocoons. So we put them all back as nice as we could so they could keep going. The whole idea is to keep things moving. And tillage is animals. It's not the bacteria and the fungi that are so sensitive to tillage. It's the animals. The animals are very sensitive to the tillage. The earthworms, we just know that they disappear. We just don't have nearly as many. And yes, putting a lot more organic matter in the soil makes it more resilient, but we still need to get the animals circulating. So you can see all those low bars there are where we have tillage. But there's also another thing happening there, and that's also crops. And flax, canola, all I can say is canola is awesome. Brassicas are awesome. I put them in all my mixes because they stimulate the soil animals. So if we're going to recover from any kind of tillage, we're going to use the soil animals. It doesn't matter what you use. This is one that we resurrected. This was built in 1937. This was purchased in 1937. My father-in-law remembers as a boy it being pulled by a team of four horses, and we are getting it ready to go again. All my little horse pastures that I work with people in the valley rehabilitating, we've actually just about finished fixing this up, and we're going to start pulling it with my draft horses. I have a love of perch roans. I'm confessing. I'm sort of doing my addiction to perch roans. So this is a perfect reason for me to have my perch roans and run around. And so now I'm trailing my perch rods and my drill, and we're reestablishing horse pastures. We seed them, some of them we seed every spring with lots of brassicas and forages and things like that. And some of these people aren't growing, they just don't have need for hay anymore, which is a good thing.